Hello, welcome to SVGA, your PC retro gaming podcast. I'm Hugo Prévost, and we have a guest this week. Marcin Paczynski, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
You are the Senior Business Development Manager at GOG. That's a mouthful.
Apologies.
GOG obviously is a company that sells modern but mostly older games. In fact, most of the games we talked about on the show have been bought on GOG, so we already know the company and the storefront. But today we're talking because in November last year, GOG announced that it was joining another long name, European Federation of Game Archives, Museums and Preservation Projects. So the EFGAM,
sure.
the EFGAM, if you want to pronounce the acronym. And GOG also announced its own game preservation program. So what's the reasoning behind this?
The reasoning for the game preservation program and us joining the EFGAM. Well, it's actually quite simple. Like GOG has always been game preservation has always been a core of GOG, right? This is actually how the entire platform got started by 2008, right? Since then, we've been doing many other things, like we started releasing indie games, we started releasing day one games, a couple of AAA day one titles, all of the CD Projekt Red games, of course. But we were always the focus on game preservation and on the classic games was always very, very strong in GOG. But to be perfectly honest, during the last few years, that aspect of our platform, in my opinion at least, could have gotten a bit more attention.
Okay.
And thankfully this year, because of many factors actually, especially, not especially, but one of the contributing factors to that doubling down on game preservation was that this is a hot topic recently. So we've been able finally to build a business case in which we can really focus the entire platform on game preservation, on bringing back the classic titles, on spending resources into fixing them, releasing them, maintaining them for as long as the platform exists. And we are talking here about the hundreds, if not thousands, of potential games that will be added to the preservation program in the coming years. So game preservation program was started because we needed a name for this doubling down on the game preservation and on the classic games, right? And on top of that, we needed to somehow differentiate the titles that we are personally at GOG responsible for from the rest of the catalog, so that the users can immediately say, hey, this is the games the GOG is fully committed to, and the rest is basically like on any other platform. That said, we started with around 106 titles, I think, currently, with the aim of having 500 by the end of the year.
Okay.
So that is the first step in this hopefully long and fruitful journey in the world of game preservation. That's why we also entered EFGAM. And we are in the process of looking into many other initiatives. So we want to basically put our money where our mouth is. So if we said in our communication when we launched first the program in November that we want to basically champion the game preservation movement, we did really mean it. So what you have seen in the last 2 months was actually just a start.
I see.
And there are more things that are coming. One of the things will actually happen tomorrow with our, I can probably, when you will be.
It's going to come out tomorrow. Yeah, it's going to come out on January 29th. So it's right on time, I guess.
Okay, so January 29th, perfect. Because tomorrow, January 29th, 9 a.m., we'll be launching our new big feature that is also connected to our new mission. That is basically a revised wishlist. Revised or reborn, so to speak, because we already had a wishlist on GOG. But that was one of the oldest part of the entire platform. So what is happening now is basically we show the value in that tool that, despite it being neglected, was still used not only by us internally, but also by the community. So this doubling down on game preservation allowed us to spend our resources into reshaping that tool into something much more meaningful, and something that would create a place in the internet where everybody can contribute to the game preservation in a meaningful way, meaning that to vote for the games that they wish to bring back. So that is another big step that we will be taking into that direction, and hopefully with the amount of attention and the traffic and this generate, it will help us not only to prioritize our work internally, but also help us to show the publishers that despite it being not an easy situation from the legal side, from the business side on wherever, those titles might actually be really, really worth it, because look how many people would love to see them back. So that is our goal with the wishlist, because currently there is no such tool, so to speak, such place available on the internet. And there are many games that, for people who know game preservation, who are into gaming for a long time, for us, so there are titles that are kind of obvious. Yeah, obviously this game, if it is ever re-released, will blow up, will be absolutely a hit success, but you do not have any numbers to support that. So it's before you get those numbers, it's just an opinion. So the hope with that wish list is that we will be able to prove in a more meaningful way to all of those companies who own those games that this actually might be worth everyone's effort.
It's interesting that you talk about doubling down on game preservation, because we assume, at least I assume when I shop on GOG, when I browse on the website, that that's already the core mission. And I understand that you said that it was a little bit not forgotten, but there was maybe less resources allowed to preserve games. Was it because it was too time intensive? Was there a specific reason behind this?
There are a couple of reasons. Basically, it was hard to build a business case for that amount of resources that would be necessary to maintain hundreds and thousands of titles, right? Because it's not just release them and forget about them. No. By maintenance, we mean that we will constantly be checking those games, and we'll be constantly monitoring the feedback from the community. Whenever someone sends a ticket to our support that, hey, something is wrong with this game, we are committing to fixing that as soon as possible, right? So we basically needed to create or recreate a huge team, I would say, within GOG that would be focused solely on that. And since we are talking about the old classic titles, we need to remember that a lot of those games are sold for a couple of dollars on promotion. So from the perspective of the cost versus the benefit, it wasn't an easy so to speak decision to make. So what we basically needed to do is to say, hey, game preservation is probably the coolest thing that we are doing as a platform, has been since the beginning of GOG. Let's try to put everything on this one card and just go all in, because we really believe that this is something that has a tremendous value, and this is the best moment to do it. Not only because, in the industry, this is a big topic, but also that right now we feel that we are finally ready in terms of the tools that we've developed over the years, in terms of the know-how that we have, and in terms of the business robustness, so to speak, that we can invest, you can say that, in that direction and really try to make it work in a scale in which this becomes sustainable business-wise for the decades to come. That is the hope. And I'm happy to say that we had a really good start. So our hope that this is a topic that this is a topic that a lot of people are really passionate about, turn out to be well-founded, and we saw an absolutely amazing reception from the program. So that gives me, the future right now looks pretty bright, but it's just the first step.
No, sorry, go ahead.
There is a lot still that needs to be done. Stay tuned.
Obviously, you've mentioned the money side of things, and obviously you need to make money. You're a company. You want to employ your employees. You don't want to close down, obviously. Is there... you've also talked about the fact that most of these very old games are sold for a few dollars. There's frequently sales on the website. I can buy possibly 10 games for less than $50 and so on. Is there a point where you're going to say, well, we're going to raise the prices because it costs too much money paying these people to check every game all the time to be sure that because obviously there will be more newer operating systems, newer hardware, new cases where the old games don't work on new systems or specific computers. So is there a point where you're going to say, well, the game was costing $5 before and now it's going to be $7 or $10 or $12?
I don't think so. It would be from the perspective of the cost that is needed to maintain certain titles and to make them work. It would make sense, I think, to increase the prices. But I'm not sure that this would be a good direction. What we want to do is to generate the revenue that is needed to sustain this business model, not only from those titles, but also from the rest of the catalog that is not yet part of the program.
Yes.
Because what we are actually promising with the program is, hey, we are doing this, right? But we also have all of those, day one titles, indie titles, and so on and so forth. And we hope that a lot of people will choose our platform also from that perspective. Like they will say, hey, those guys are doing actually a cool thing. So if I need to choose between one platform or the other to buy my next title, I will choose GOG. And we will also strive to deliver the best possible experience in the new titles as well. So nothing changes here. On top of that, there is actually an objective value in which all of those day one titles today will become classic titles one day, right? Yeah. So they will eventually, the hope is that they will all join the program and they will be maintained by us. So by buying the day one title on GOG today, you don't need to worry about it working in the next 10 years because when you launch it in that time, it will still work because by that moment, most likely, it will join the program and we will be maintaining that game for you. So that is the hope.
For now, you've talked about 106 games that are now in the preservation program. I had a look. Obviously, huge classics like Diablo, Heroes of Might and Magic 3, and also titles, newer-ish titles. I'm doing her quotes here for people who are listening. Newer-ish titles like Fallout New Vegas, which is from 2009. And I wanted to ask you about the technical obstacles, besides the being sure that it works on newer computers, for example. But games from that time usually have some things like game from Windows Live, something like copy protections. And
we've seen it all.
yeah, and I mean, when it comes to that, don't want to say dark age of the PC gaming, but this time where all the editors wanted to protect their titles, is it much harder to adapt? Is it much harder to take it apart? Because I'm guessing when you buy Fallout New Vegas on GOG, there's not a trace of games for Windows Live, obviously.
Yes. And well, it obviously depends on the game, and it, as you said, it can be really, really challenging, especially since in a lot of those cases we are not working with the source code because the source code simply does not exist anymore, or no one knows where it is. But all of the games that we are releasing on GOG need to be DRM free, meaning that they are all playable offline. So any requirements for external accounts, well, they can be still there if they make sense, but they need to be optional. You need to you need to be able to fully experience the single player portion of the game without any internet connection. That is our definition of the DRM free. And yes, there are a couple of games that we released on GOG after a lot of changes that we needed to make into to make sure to remove all of those features that could be viewed as a DRM. And unfortunately, there are still a couple of titles that we still haven't been able to release because of that fact. Because without the source code, removing certain features would be way too big of a challenge, even for our extremely experienced reverse engineers in that area. But I wanted to say that eventually we'll be able to release all of those games. Because with time, I have to say that we've been able to overcome most, if not, most of those issues and release those games on the platform.
And when it comes to preserving games, obviously you have to talk with the rights holders, be it the original company that published the game or someone else. And Lord knows we had a lot of buying and selling of IPs in the gaming world. How hard is it? Do you have a special team of negotiators someplace?
Yes, I am currently part of that.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, because it's like I mentioned, I'm with GOG since 2009, so it's been a while. But up to 2009, I was working more on the technical side of things, on making sure that those games work, on releasing them, on I was the head of the department that was responsible for that part of our business. And right now I am responsible on the business side, meaning that I am trying to get those games signed so the product department can start working on them. Right. Yeah. So I moved to the other side of the spectrum. And to answer your question, yes, it is sometimes very challenging. Because I would love to have all of the games that we currently have on our current wish list, but unfortunately, in a lot of cases, this is a very long and complicated process. So it takes time. Sometimes it takes a lot of time. But we are very, very patient at GOG. We just keep knocking on the door, and without persistence, eventually the planets do align and we are able to move forward with a certain title. And we also, got way better in, building the business cases with strong enough value so that the biggest publishers out there can look at and say, hey, this actually might be something worth our time. Because we still need to remember that we are talking with multi-billion dollars publishers that are working on multi-million-dollar projects, and here are we that we are going to them and, hey, you have this amazing game that you can sell on GOG for $5.99. So it is challenging, right? Because we are not working with projects that are going to make them millions of dollars, right? It's considerably something considerably smaller than they are working on the daily basis. But like I said, in time we've got better into finding other reasons to do it. Taking some of that work that is needed from them and doing it our own in a more efficient way, because we know, because of our experience, we know what to do, what to look for, and how to solve certain issues in a way that does not involve many teams thinking about the problem. So efficiency, finding like the most efficient way to do it was one of the probably main things that we kept developing over the years. But there are still a lot of games that we do not have. But the legal situation with those is
it's
quite complicated.
Yeah,
you are talking about split rights, licensing, licenses that have expired, things like that. So basically, like whenever the big company looks at the game like that, and after the initial evaluation, they see a list of problems.
Yeah.
And some of them look really scary at the face value. They are like, okay, we are not touching that.
Yeah. For the past few years, GOG has not been the only company selling older games. Companies like Valve with Steam, EA, even smaller companies like Zoom Platform, they all sell older games. Do you see this as a competition, a better way to preserve game, maybe a bit of both?
We are all working towards the same goal in the end. So it's a good thing that more and more companies are looking into in the same direction, and more people are focusing on it. Because they might stumble up on something that we've missed, right? So I'm happy that it's not just us, so to speak. So yeah, it's good that this topic is getting more and more attention, especially recently.
You've talked before about wanting to preserve up to 500 games this year with the program. There are about 10,000 games and DLCs in your catalog. Is there a plan to by the year 3000 maybe to say that you have preserved everything? What's the next? What are the next steps for this program?
So, like I said, 5,000. As you repeated, it's 500 games till the end of the year, with a lot more that are still waiting in the queue. And unfortunately, we cannot do them all at the same time. My hope is, and this is actually the direction that we are going, that we'll be able to scale this program up. With the growing interest in the program and with the growth of the platform, I hope that we'll be able to commit more and more resources into doing that. So we'll be able to add considerably more games in the coming years. Right now, I think the limit, or sorry, not the limit, but right now, the games in our catalog that have a potential of becoming part of the program, we have around 3,000 of those games out of the catalog of 10,000. And what I mean by that specifically is that those are all of the games that we created the builds for as a GOG and our technical team. So because of that fact, we are kind of free to, alter those builds or to, improve them and or fix them in a way that we see fitting. So the bar is currently there. But as you mentioned, there's like around 10,000 games on GOG, while including DLC, so without them is around 9,000. So the potential for that program is absolutely huge.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that, as I mentioned here, that with the growing popularity of the program, we will be able to scale to that amount of titles.
Marcin Paczynski, Senior Business Development Manager at GOG, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, obviously, to people who are listening right now. If you want to catch up on past episodes, we are on piev.ca. We also are on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube. Until next time.